So the vaccine, I've heard people criticize Parson. I've heard him, it's his fault that people aren't taking a vaccine. I think the governor's job was to get the vaccines out. He did that. Now they're talking about how do you get the other, about half of the state isn't vaccinated? And now there's businesses that want to make it happen. Give me the Republican case. I know I've heard a lot of Republicans push back and say you should not be able, as a business, to force folks to take this vaccine. Lay that case out.
Well, I think the governor's been very clear in encouraging people to get the vaccine, making it accessible, having the lottery drive. So I would say at this point, everyone who wants the vaccine can have it, and it's been very accessible. So I think the governor's performed exceptionally well in that area. And for those that believe a school shouldn't have a mandate or business, schools have been able to do it since about 1850, if I remember correctly, and businesses, it's their business. So that's their, choice.
Jack Cardetti, I've heard this to me it looks like folks that aren't vaccinated, like if you're in Poplar Bluff and you work for the gas company, right? You don't quit that job, you retire from it. And maybe I think there's some folks that read Twitter or Facebook, they think they're angry. Most folks just haven't done it because they don't care enough, right? But if you have to at work, you'll go do it.
Yeah, and I think that's really what's going to move the needle here. We saw this week that FDA finally approved fully the Pfizer vaccine. I think that's great. I think some of the people that had some hesitancy, that'll tip them over. But what will ultimately get the job done, I do think, is good old capitalism here, right? When your employer says, hey, you're either going to have to pay higher health care costs or this is a condition of your job, I think that's good. Look, we make kindergartners take 6 different vaccines in the state of Missouri. Always have. It's never been a problem. You're going to see that with some of this from business.
Jess Piper up in the great Northwest.
Yes, sir.
It looks to me like, you hate to make people do stuff. But if it's the government, but if it's your place of business, I guess you can quit your job, right?
That's right. And when it comes to schools, we mandate a lot of things for students. You can't wear spaghetti straps, you can't wear a tube top. And so when we talk about mask mandates, I think it's just something that goes along with people, keeping kids safe and keeping the learning going. And a mask can do that. And I know that for a fact because I taught last year face-to-face the entire year.
Let me ask you a question. As an educator, did you get your vaccine?
I did. As soon as it was possible.
How have you done with your family up in the great Northwest?
I do have a couple of family members who are vaccine hesitant. I wouldn't say that they're anti-vaxxers, and I talk to them often, and we're working on it.
I got a mom that's just stubborn. I don't know what, I think the clinical doctor would diagnose her as stubborn. Representative, during the FRA session, I thought you gave one of the best arguments for why Republicans should leave businesses alone, not just on some things, but every day.
Well, I can tell you in our personal business, we have changed as a condition of employment, you get the vaccine unless it's for medical or religious reasons. I mean, we didn't have that. We had people working there, and of the 4 that didn't get the vaccine, 2 of them had it, and they shut down our business for another 3 weeks. We had individual employees that had to go home every night to take care of their mother or something. They had concerns about being exposed to the people who didn't take the vaccine. You had other people who have custody of their children and their children. And just from a business standpoint, I think, it's our right, and certainly we don't tell you have to take the shot. But if you want to work here, that's what you do. And I think that's a fundamental right of business that has been forever.
It's going to be interesting when this comes down to, should the state of Missouri do it, should a government body, that's one thing, but should a private business be able to mandate that? I think that's going to be hard for Republicans to say, leave businesses alone, and then now tell them what to do. Although hypocrisy's never been foreign to this particular bill.
Yeah, I don't want to tell private business they have to mandate it. It's a business. Capitalism will take care of itself if we leave it alone.
All right, Jack Cardetti, this week, kids went back to school, and I tell you what, in the United States of America, I had a 5-year-old son has to go sit with something wrapped around his face all day. Now, I know people talk about science and all this. Little kids, we've said, isn't that susceptible to these things. And now you got school districts, not just in St. Louis, real Missouri school districts are saying you have to do this. I don't know. I think what you're going to see is where the health board now has the most right-wing person in the counties ran for it. You're going to see some school board elections now. Get ready for the crazy.
We need to do whatever it takes to get kids in-seat learning this year, right? We saw last year, virtual learning, all of that. It just doesn't work, right? Our kids are behind. Whatever it takes to get in-seat learning, and with every school district, that's going to be different. Polk County, Bolivar, Missouri, governor's home county, said exactly that this week, is that if we're going to have kids in school, we're going to have enough staff there, we got to have masks, at least to start the year.
I saw the Soros people say that, but really, the governor graduated from Wheatland, which does not have a mask order. James Ayers, I mean, it is. I very seldom get radical. I walked into the school district as Mike Sirpoy. I walked out as Connie Sirpoy. I think it's fine if you want to send your kid with a helmet, right? You want to send your kid wrapped in bubble wrap. I don't know that you need to make a 5-year-old little kid try to learn how to read and write with something wrapped around his head.
I would agree, and if parents want to have extra precautions, they should do so. But most of these kids, I have a 4-year-old, I have an 8-year-old. Their nose starts running, their snot going, they're taking them on and off. To say these are N95s, they're not. So we're kind of, I think, this political window dressing, and we forget with some kids that have dyslexia and other learning problems. If the teacher's got a mask on, it impedes their learning abilities. My son's dyslexic, and last year the teacher wearing the mask, I could tell it was impacting his ability to really listen to what she's saying. And so there's a balancing act here.
I'm a huge local control guy. I think the governor's did a great job letting local places decide how they want to do these mask ordinances. I think that's great. But if you're in St. Louis and you don't want the government telling you what to do, you move to, Reynolds County. The government ain't gonna tell you what to do as much. But a little kid, he ain't got no choice.
And the sad thing is no one stands up for the kids.
But masks can be the same approaches we take in mandating vaccine. Every school district is different. Every school facility is different. Some have space where they can spread them, some don't. In-school learning, though, is still a high priority. And so for us to sit here and make some rule that affects every district in the state, every district is different. I can go right in my hometown with the parochial schools and our high school and our public schools. We managed to keep them open last year all the way through pretty well. We segregated out, so if one child turned positive, there'd be a small group of people but we kept the system in our, but that was a combination of everything, and that we can address better than anybody sitting up here at the Capitol can tell them how to run their district. And if you have a child with dyslexia, those, good school districts will adjust accordingly. But I don't believe that we up here can tell the local school districts how to run their school district better than they can.
You've actually been in a classroom. What do you think?
I think that he is heading in the right way. My son is actually dyslexic as well, and masking didn't impede his learning. But what does impede his learning is being at home. And the reason he would be at home is because everyone is quarantined, teachers are out. I 100% can tell you from personal experience that masking works and keeps kids in their seats. 100%. The only reason kids would be quarantined is because they were exposed during band, during choir, during football practice, when they took their mask off. But when we were sitting in the classroom, I went 180 days and I did not get COVID. My children did not get COVID. We masked every day. It didn't impede the way I could talk, but you're right, it can impede some kids. So we have adaptive technologies, we have microphones. A good teacher will work around this and make it work for every single child. But masking, it worked.